Yeah.
I'm Dennis Knoxon from California.
Can I give this to you, Libby? Do you mind?
FBI saved you again.
That's really good. Thank you for being here.
Hey, what are you doing?
Not as fast as I used to.
Yeah, stick in the ground. Stick in the ground.
You might be better off doing that. Hold on.
Yeah, it is.
Take a picture of one to hold in there. The one that you didn't want to hold.
If we stick the back one into the dirt, that might help. I appreciate your help too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're just going on up here.
No, I don't think.
I get all of
No, I think you're fine.
So I assume it's basically all right.
I just picked Thomas, a couple from Adam.
Okay, all right.
Not a big deal.
Three Louisiana boys.
It's proofing.
You know what? It's a speech that doesn't consider the same proofing.
Alright, the Louisiana's going to take a photo.
Ready. One,
Go Louisiana, the heroes of the movement.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
This is, have you met Mike Johnson? He's a state representative from Louisiana. Not to confuse with Congressman Mike Johnson.
Yeah, I get all his complaints and it's all my credit.
No other Abigail Spanberger.
Catch one more for me. Okay. I need to catch one. You don't mind. Actually, once you get this.
Howard, hey, how you doing? Over here, Howard. Yeah, no, not at all. My wife was a teacher in Howard.
And on so many of your webinars and Zooms.
Thank y'all.
Dennis, one more time.
Hope it's helpful.
One more time. There we go.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, yeah, hey, sure. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming down.
All right. I'm good. How are you? All right. Yeah, we're going to do a photo right here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There we go.
Whatever you want.
Very good. Very good.
Get out of the
Oh,
way.
sure.
I'm so
This
sorry.
thing on?
Yeah, he's on.
It is. Okay. Oh, it's there. All right. Got it.
You can actually use that. He's the TV journalist from TV Colonia. If you wanted to use that, he'll be recording you.
I'm sure. He's good right there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Garrett Graves and represent South Louisiana. Really appreciate all of the coalition partners that are behind us today, from folks like Congresswoman Spanberger, Congresswoman Manning, and I got to give a shout out to Congresswoman Julia Ledlow, who also has been a real champion, as well as all of the coalition groups and stakeholders that are represented here today. And also joined State Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Look, what we're working on right now is about righting a wrong, addressing an injustice that's been around since the late 1970s and early 1980s. Very clear. These are people that have paid into Social Security, people that have paid for their retirement benefits, that for the last 40 plus years have actually had their benefits taken. Their benefits have gone into the Social Security Trust Fund without the same return that every other American is guaranteed. These are people like firefighters, people like teachers, people like police officers, people that are some of the most overworked and overpaid members of our community. Some of did I get that backwards? I got it backwards out. Let me try that again. Fumble. So most overworked and underpaid. Gosh, I'm married to a teacher. I'm toast. But overworked and underpaid people in America, and some of the most important occupations in our country. The ones that are truly responsible for the difference between chaos and peace. The ones that are responsible for training the next generation. This is absolutely critical we address this issue, that we solve this once and for all. And today we're all so excited as a result of the work of Abby and Kathy, the work of Julia and so many others. We've actually hit 290 co-sponsors. And I want to be clear, at least last time I counted, which based on how I'm doing so far, I may be wrong. But last time we checked, this legislation, after thousands and thousands of bills have been introduced in the Congress this year, this bill has the third most co-sponsors of any legislation. Strong bipartisan support from the East Coast to the West Coast. And that's a direct result of the tireless efforts of all of the people behind me. So with that, I just want to say thank you to the strong coalition, this incredible network of people from all 50 states that have been out there advocating and educating. We would never be here without this strong group of folks' work. So huge shout out. And with that, I want to turn over to my friend and colleague, Congresswoman Spanberger.
Good afternoon. I am so excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with so many advocates, so many public servants, so many people committed to, frankly, just a basic issue of fairness. I represent Virginia's 7th District. I'm a proud former federal employee and the daughter of a career federal employee. I want to thank every advocate who is here today, who is here with their presence, who is here to share a few words about their experiences. Because right now, as Garrett said, right now there are only 2 other bills on Capitol Hill that have more co-sponsors than this piece of legislation. And going on years, I have been proud to work on the Social Security Fairness Act to make sure that America's police officers, firefighters, educators, and public employees receive the retirement benefits and the retirement security that they have earned through their work. And I come to this issue because of my constituents. Back in 2017, when I was on the campaign trail, I went to a breakfast with NARF, and I had a woman explain to me that as a widow, after losing her husband, she also realized that because of the government pension offset, she was not receiving the benefits that she should be receiving. And she didn't understand why she was being treated differently than any other widow who had lost a spouse, particularly as she had lost a spouse who for the entirety of his career had been devoted to public service. And as she asked me this question and asked me about this, I thought there must be something wrong. Perhaps she's mistaken, because I couldn't understand that this was the reality on the ground. And so when I got to Congress from day one, I have been proud to co-lead this legislation and work to ultimately see it get passed. My district is home to thousands of federal retired employees, thousands of police officers, first responders, and so many Virginians who choose careers of public service. And I have heard from them since I first became a candidate about the importance of this issue. Town halls, every single town hall I have, someone asks about it. And today would want to just share one story from a constituent, James. He's a retired federal employee who lives in Spotsylvania County. And he said, quote, "I contributed to Social Security longer than I did as a federal employee contributing to the civil service retirement system. Yet because of the WEP, my Social Security is reduced by several thousands of dollars annually. Adding insult to injury, my spouse, also a federal retiree with a very modest federal annuity, is subject to the GPO and unable to receive the spousal portion of my Social Security retirement benefit. I've heard from police officers. I represent retired Capitol police officers, and one, Thomas, who lives in Culpeper County, told me that since retiring after 25 years of service as a U.S. Capitol police officer, his Social Security was cut. He is impacted. We know that there are millions of Americans impacted, and there are 47,000 Virginians who have seen their benefits, their earned benefits, reduced. We have to do right by the people who have devoted themselves to public service, and I am so delighted that we are at nearly 300 members of Congress. 290 is a magic number here on Capitol Hill. And finding 290 members of Congress who agree on just about anything, I don't think we could agree on pizza toppings at that number, demonstrates, in fact, that this is the right path forward. There is a strong consensus, and I am so proud to be here today, supporting this legislation, the progress that we've made, and express my gratitude for the retired public servants who have brought their voices to the advocacy. It's now my pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Kathy Manning from North Carolina.
Good afternoon. I'm Congresswoman Kathy Manning. I represent North Carolina's Congressional District. Thank you so much to Congressman Graves for hosting this rally, and to everyone here for showing up, and thank you to my dear friend Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger for being a part of this. Yesterday, as I was at the airport getting ready to fly to DC, I ran both of them were eager to tell me that they were on their way here to the Capitol to repeal the government pension offset Windfall Elimination Program. This was not the first time they had talked to me about this issue, so I was well educated on the topic. These two, hundreds of thousands of others across the country, have spent their lives working as highly committed public servants. But because of these unjust provisions, they cannot get the benefits they earned as government servants. So, and to stand up every American impacted by the WEP and GPO. Retirees receive their full earnings from Social Security. They paid into their entire working lives. What's more, pension offset often reduces Social Security benefits for widows and widowers who also receive a pension from their years of work. That's why I am such a strong supporter of the Social Security Act of 2023, which will repeal these harmful provisions that reduce vital benefits. Justice to the Social Security system and helps seniors across the nation retire with the dignity they deserve. I'm proud to be part of this bipartisan effort. We'll continue to fight to get this important legislation across the finish line. As Abigail said, we don't usually get 290 members of Congress to agree. Abigail said we couldn't agree on pizza toppings. We even agree that it was time for lunch. But we all agree on this issue of fairness. Thank you to Congressman Graves for organizing this rally. We are here to support this effort.
So next we're going to go to Susie Dixon. Susie Dixon.
Thank you. My name is Susie Dixon. I'm currently the president of the California Retired Teachers Association. I've been working on this the last 8 years. I retired after 35 years of teaching in the California public schools and 2 years in Michigan as a non-professional paraprofessional. I started working at 15, so I did qualify for Social Security last January. I am penalized by both. Close to 35,000 members. We have all of them, 375,000 California teachers that are affected by the WEP and the GPO. So it's been our passion and our cause for many years. I've been working over 3 decades. My last legislative advocate said he had an aha moment after these 2 repeals were passed and went, bad. Forward, thinking for over 3 decades. as you know, we support and push bipartisan measures. And H.R. 82 and the Senate do that. All these penalties. I know from many stories from retired teachers that have lost a loved one that is their second income relied on for their whole life, that they are reduced to a poverty level or low income. They move in with family. As you know, that doesn't usually work out when you have to move in with your children. They go on government assistance. Food programs than it is for their earned benefits. I love what I read a few years ago on the GPO website. Congress intended for Social Security spousal benefits to support non-working spouses who are financially dependent on their working spouse. Because many spouses now have their own careers and are not financially dependent on their spouse, the law requires us to reduce the spouse. Seriously, I have worked since I was 15. Whole life to raise our three sons. That is the most appalling argument, and it needs to go away. Also, that we didn't pay in the teachers in 15 states into Social Security doesn't stand. Do your homework, look at the site. Many spouses collect a spousal benefit while the spouse is alive that did not qualify for Social Security themselves, and when the spouse passes, they get the full amount. So why are we any different? Because we worked and we support is a great. As I said, for over 30 years, we have been paying in and doing that. The other argument is that it will cause insolvency, 1 year or 2 years less. Actually, the way we look at it, we've been keeping Social Security solvent with those two penalties. Our money going in each month is paying for that. I am personally affected. The WEP takes all my $611, takes 52% of that, pay for care, and I owe the government every single 46. If he passes, I will lose that huge amount of our second income, and my lifestyle will change, as many teachers do. So thank you for being our champions and our heroes.
Next is fellow Louisianian, incredible advocate and part of the, historically part of the St. Charles Parish Sheriff's Department, Pat Yos, President of Fraternal Order Police.
Thank you. Keeping what you earn deserves nothing that you haven't. Well, that's the very principles of fairness, and that's what our profession. Good afternoon, and thank you Representative Graves and Representative Spanberger for working with us so tirelessly to call to attention a travesty for America's public employees. What started off as a simple member reaching out to us some 30 years ago saying, hey, take a look at what's getting ready to happen, to today. We have been strong advocates to have this fully repealed, a government pension offset, windfall elimination government pension offset. And there's a reason, because it's just not fair. It's not fair to the men and women every single day. They suit up every single day, protecting their. They receive the same benefits that they paid into, just like every other American. So on behalf of our 373,000 members across this country, thank you for the hard work that you're doing in repealing this legislation, many of which are affected by this particular bill. Last September, we stood right here and praised the fact that we had not only reached 305 co-sponsors to finally get movement on this bill. And unfortunately, Congress ran out without action being taken. And here we are today. I'm enthusiastic of reaching this number and not even halfway through this Congress. It gives us time to be able to work through and finally get a resolution. Talking about this issue, there is not a single person in this House and back of me that will tell you that there's anything fair about windfall elimination government pension offset. But they all follow it with one question. Where does the money come from? Well, I have an answer for you. It comes from the paychecks of the people who paid into it. We're public employees who do a job of public service, and the fact that we're public employees doesn't mean that we should be penalized, a benefit that every other American across this country receives. The fact that we have chosen a path of public service should not penalize us in trying to the Social Security system on law enforcement officers, who many of which level because of the reduction. To give one example, a member out of Ohio who just recently retired. His name is Michael Barker. Michael Barker received paperwork saying that he'd received $700 a month with an asterisk by it, letting him know that windfall elimination government pension offset could very well impact that number. And it did. He receives $168. $168 for a system that he has paid in this entire time. It's time to fix this. It's time to stop balancing the Social Security system on the backs of public employees and give us the same benefits that every other American is. Unfairness. There's nothing fair about this provision or these two provisions at all. So thank you again for the hard work in calling attention to this. We have a lot of work to do. Still, as we know from last Congress, just because we reach that number doesn't mean that we're going to get a vote on it because we didn't get it last Congress. We have a lot of work to do here and on the other side of the House. It's time today to fix a problem. And remember, all of these people who are affected by Social Security, windfall elimination, government pension offset, every single one of them, they're not going away. We are going to be here every single year forcing Congress to address this issue. It is not going away. And remember, thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Next, we have Pam Alexandrov with the National WEP GPO Repeal Movement.
Thank you. I am affected by the Windfall Elimination Provision, WEP, and it is a pretty straightforward story to tell. I qualified for Social Security benefits and later chose to serve my community as an elementary school teacher, earning a pension from the uncovered non-Social Security paying job. To my earned benefits. But my road to the GPO is most troublesome, and I created the perfect storm. While many were working mothers, my then husband and I chose a more traditional route. For over 12 years, I stayed home entirely dependent on his earnings, managing our home, raising our children, and assisting him in developing a business. I also volunteered at a public elementary school in Chicago to bring culturally relevant events and learning experiences to children who would not otherwise have the opportunity for such investment. During that time, I worked towards my first advanced degree in education and started teaching in 1995. It was nearly 25 years before I learned about the Social Security offsets because our government only required disclosure beginning in 2009. At 65, it was too late to make a career change to avoid the penalties, already losing my entire spousal benefit. And just as an aside, although this affects press the whole idea of survivors, those married with living spouses can have their entire benefit wiped out. I stewed over this for a long time, and I must admit that as a citizen, I found myself with an angry acceptance because the offsets represented federal laws. At the same time, I took all this quite personally. But in 2020, I had a revelation. I was not alone. There must be citizens fighting against sexist, age, discriminate against specific population segments. I am now the administrator of the National WEP and GPO Repeal Movement and an active member of the National WEP GPO Repeal Task Force. I have heard the stories of thousands of Americans and witnessed the devastation perpetrated upon our citizens due to the penalties. This has to stop because it is un-American. We, our spouses, and employers paid the necessary U.S. federal payroll tax, and our government has lawfully robbed us of our earned for decades. I appealed to Congress and the Biden administration to right this wrong so deserving Americans can realize the full breadth of their rightfully earned Social Security benefits. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story and speak for the millions of Americans hurt by the WEP and GPO. Thank you very much.
All right, American higher educator.
From as Congressman said, I am a retired teacher. And as we look around the world, and the world is flip-flopping and costs of everything are skyrocketing after recessions and pandemics, many seniors are trying to hold on and finish their life with grace and dignity. Louder? Okay. At 75 years old, I am one of these seniors. And I'm finding that the WEP and the GPO penalties are making that ever so much harder, almost impossible. My story is not that different. People in this country that suffer the emotional and financial pain of not having benefits you have earned that should be coming to you, but they're being withheld. As a teacher in Connecticut, I could not pay into Social Security. It wasn't allowed. It wasn't my choice. So in my case, like, worked and paid into Social Security many years before, after, and while I was teaching. But when I went to apply for my benefits in 2009, when I was 62, I learned that the WEP was going to and that has been costing me that much, $300 a month, since 2009. Now I receive a decent pension for teaching for 36 years, but the amount has been stagnant, and the loss of my earned Social Security benefits seems so unfair and makes me feel very vulnerable going into the future. And then this happened. My husband had paid into Social Security for more than 40 years. He received his full pension, his full retirement Social Security benefit. He always benefit should he predecease me. Well, he died last October. That was after battling myelofibrosis quite a few years. That Social Security benefit that he was sure I would get is not there. I get nothing. I should be getting probably around $2,000. I get nothing. So we were making ends meet. And some investments that we had made. But the 2/3 of my I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stay in my home, which we had loved together for over 25 years, and in which his spirit still exists. Already I'm struggling emotionally, as you can see, and I'm anxious about the financial future, which right now is still in progress. If I was not denied the Social Security benefits that I had earned, that he had earned, those survivor benefits particularly, that my husband earned for my protection, I wouldn't be facing such insecurity as I live out my final years. Because I have a friend, Donna. She did all the right things. She worked outside of the her classroom in several capacities so that she could earn her Social Security. She created and ran after-school programs. She did after she retired, she did long-term subbing. She did a reading tutor afterwards. She substituted professional. She could contribute to Social Security. now that she is, and then of course she also had been married to someone for 14 years, father of her child, but even though they were divorced, she should expect to have benefit. Well, now retired, Donna that in common. She's been in her home for 50 plus years. It's in a neighborhood, it's a very stable neighborhood, though it's aging, but it's one in which she's, you know, there are the people that she walks with every day, which we want seniors to do. She makes little social, impromptu, sometimes planned events occur in her neighborhood. She feels safe and she feels connected, and she's frightened. She's going to be able to see where she's going to go, but the family. You know, if she wasn't losing the $400 a month of her own Social Security, and she thinks about $800 a month from her husband, from her ex-husbands, she would not be feeling this way. And right just down the street from me is a friend who taught for 36 years. And during that time, she and her husband started a construction business. But they started this construction business together while she was teaching. And through that company, she paid payroll taxes. But she also did other things. She worked as a consultant, fortunately as a consultant, both the employee and the employee amounts for two companies. And her husband also paid into Social Security in his company for over 35 years. She estimates that they put in over $300,000 into the Social Security Trust Fund. She retired in 2011 and she received her reduced amount, which was frustrating, but then her husband got cancer and passed away in 2015. She got $255 to bury him and lost all of the Social Security benefits that had been coming into the household while he was alive. They felt like they did the right thing. They had done the right things. And this is, and then of course there's Jay, because she'll lose all of her husband's Social Security when these are, we are just examples of people. As I said, there's 3 million people out there that are probably in similar or more dire situations than these. And they have been waiting for these penalties to be repealed and for fairness to be restored. And I am so thankful for those who are working so hard, with the group that I'm working with and the legislators that are really fighting to make sure that this happens, and this happens now. And I thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary. Gene Slowski with representing retired.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Gene Sokolowski. I am with the Polish American Strategic Initiative, National GPO Repeal Task Force. We represent foreign pension recipients, which is the fourth largest group among the 50 states affected by the WEP. Foreign pension recipients are Americans who worked abroad, earned a foreign pension, returned to the states, and Social Security. Pension recipients are also foreign nationals who earned a in their home country, great American dream, and then earned a Social Security pension. So the obvious question is, why are foreign pension recipients penalized by the WEP? Well, the answer is for the very same reason that our brothers and sisters in public service are penalized by the WEP. It's because we all have the audacity to earn a second non-Social Security pension. Now, if we had only earned a Social Security pension, we wouldn't be penalized. Now, for 2023, the WEP withholds from each monthly Social Security check up to $557. Now, that hits our low-wage earners at least. Also in 2020, the chief actuary of the Social Security Administration estimates that $14 billion will be from Social Security checks because of the WEP and GPO. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this has been going on for 40 years. Think of how many hundreds of billions of dollars have been unfairly withheld. It's time to end this long-standing, irrational injustice. And we have Representative Graves from Louisiana and Representative Spanberger from Virginia who are making this happen with H.R. 82. It's called Security Act. Representative Graves just pointed out we now have 290 co-sponsors, but we still need everyone's help to keep going over the finish line. So on behalf of the task force, we respectfully urge all congressmen and congresswomen to co-sponsor H.R. 82, and to those who have already done so, please know that we are terribly grateful for helping us end this long-standing injustice. Thank you.
Patrice Ernest, an aging specialist.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Patrice Ernest, and I am from Georgia, and I am a retired social worker in the field of aging services. And I, too, am an individual who has been impacted by the government pension offset. Social Security uses the term survivor's benefits to describe the benefit that they say that I'm receiving. In my letter, and I know, Mary, you received this letter saying that we were eligible, that we are receiving Social Security survivor's benefits now, and that amount will be directly deposited in our account. And you know what? That amount is zero. The letter said zero. Social Security survivor's benefit is a critical service for so many individuals, and I'm not the only one facing that this month. I'm not the only one facing the wave of both GPO and WEP. And it's an unfair 1-2 punch that impacts our widows. I just heard that there's good news. There are 335 elected officials in both the House and the Senate that have co-signed for H.R. 82 and its companion bill, Senate 597. That is incredible. Let's all clap for that. And I'm going to go off script right now because we are running a little late, I think. But I will say that so often I actually, in the middle of the night, will wake up and I'll think, with eyes wide open, how can this be happening? How can this be happening in our country where presidents have said that we will care for the widow? How can we have this law in place? So it is time to change. It's time for the widow who just lost their spouse, lost their Social Security, or a widow or widower, not to have to lose their house, not to have to lose the services that they need, that they can remain in their home and for healthy and as long as possible. Thank you so much.
Dennis Cox, retired teacher, I believe. Yes.
I'm Dennis Cox, the former vice president and the president of the California Federation of Teachers Council of Retired Members. I was encouraged to represent the CFT on the National Windfall Elimination Provision and Government Pension Offset Repeal Task Force. So, I've by now heard countless concerns and stories from retirees much more unfairly injured financially by the WEP GPO than I. However, my situation nevertheless also clarifies in part the injustice suffered by those who mistakenly thought that they would receive the full benefits they earned from the money they paid into the system that they trusted to treat them fairly. For example, on my retirement, the amount that I had earned was $658 a month. The unfair WEP penalty reduced that Social Security benefit payment that I received each month to $387. That's a 41% reduction. With additional required Medicare payments of $164 a month, the benefit payment I now receive is $223 instead of $658. For now, I can accept the Medicare deduction. The 271 months taken from me by the WEP is not just, and it's not acceptable. You see, a 200 monthly deduction is a loss for me of $3,225. So, in 14 years of retirement, I have unfairly had taken from me some $45,000 or more. At that rate, even with the COLA, if I am fortunate enough to live another 10 years, I stand to lose another $39,000. That would add up to a total loss of approximately $84,552. The financial pain I and my wife from the GPO is even greater. While I'm here in Washington, while I struggle with my grief, I should be given $2,390 from her Social Security benefits so I could have some chance of keeping the home for which we are now both paying. But no, because my pension benefits, which I earned, are slightly higher than her Social Security benefits, the spousal benefits to which I am entitled are entirely taken away from me. I get nothing. The same would be for my wife should I be the first one to pass. In my case, $28,680 a year, if I am lucky enough to live another 10 years, would add up to a staggering loss of $286,800. Many of the retirees I know will suffer even more severe financial loss than I am now forced to anticipate. We retirees are not asking for entitlements. We are asking for the full benefits for which we have paid. We are asking for fairness to those of us who worked to provide police officers, federal and municipal workers. Congress, please stop shoring up the Social Security Administration's fund by unjustly taking our earned benefits from us. Money we need for a secure retirement, and even for many of us, for the homes in which we now live. While you go ahead then and excuse the wealthy from paying their fair share on what they earn. We need your help. We appreciate your support. And thank you.
All right. So for those of you that had the questions, we're happy to take questions if anyone has questions. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, now that you've hit 290 co-sponsors, what are your next steps? Can you talk about that? And also any thoughts on Chairman Arrington's bill that he introduced to put in a replacement formula?
Sure. You want to on this? So she's asking about next steps. So look, I want to be clear. Doing this in partnership, here's my 2 cents. My 2 cents is that 290 is a magic number in the House, as you know, under the rules, allows you to put a consensus calendar, force the bill to move to a vote. Saw what happened last Congress when that was done. The committee took it up and effectively voted it down. My perspective is, and I certainly don't speak for anyone other than me, is that I think our best bet is to continue driving up this number, as many co-sponsors as we can. I remind you, last Congress, after 2 years, we got 305 co-sponsors. Here we are 9 months in, and we're already at 290 co-sponsors. I think that we're better off at this point continuing to build co-sponsors. Ways and Means Committee to get their cooperation. I in fact met with Chairman Jason Smith just this past weekend on the bill. We're going to continue. I believe we should continue working with them. If we're in the same place next year, I think we will be having a very different conversation.
I would just add to that, I agree with Garrett. We now are in the position where we can say we want this to move to a vote, but I think recognizing the importance of this legislation, ideally, hopefully, the committee will do the same and we will see it move for a vote. I think the only thing that I also believe we are and should be planning for is making sure we have enough time to then see this bill pass in the Senate once it passes in the House. So at this point in time, looking to move forward, hopefully the writing is on the wall and very clear, and the advocates have done a tremendous job that it should move through the committee process and pass. But we do want to make sure that put it over in the Senate, they do their job, and we send it to the president's.
And then look, in regard to Chairman Arrington's bill, certainly appreciate anybody who has ideas getting involved in this. I look forward to when his bill gets 290 co-sponsors. Cody's a good friend, but look, I think that we're better off at this point strategically focusing on this bill. If folks want to negotiate, I think we're happy to have conversations, but we're not negotiating with ourselves at this point.
Yep.
I had another question as well, if I may. You know, as you mentioned, the Senate set has been, it seems a little tougher to gain this traction. Whether, you know, if advocates would want to speak to either of you, but the work going on right now to try to push this forward in the Senate, if there's any updates there.
We just the morning in some Senate offices. Currently, there's 45 co-sponsors. We have a list of potentials that we're going to start using our legislative alerts that go out weekly. And when I come back in next month in October, I'm going to have meetings in those offices. But we are confident that once this bill, HR 82, gets closer to the 300 mark, more senators feel confident in supporting 597. So.
Are you seeing different responses than, say, last year in the Senate?
Last year, they were very excited when I was here in September and ready to go to a hearing and was asked if I was willing to speak. So they were really on board. Time ran out. And that's what we appreciate with our two representatives is they know time is critical. So very excited.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
This is from
Oh, yeah, thanks. I understand there's a meeting rally in Area 11.
We have a summit to repeal the WEP and GPO, and we speak to major organizations and unions in our country. Please join us over in Area 11. Thank you so much.